Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
You know when everything feels too right to go wrong? When you look at the life you've built and feel proud, convinced, and even a little lucky because the person beside you seems tailor-made for you? That's how Logan Cooper felt about marriage. And maybe that's exactly where the danger lies, in the certainties we never dare to question. Logan was the kind of man who valued the little things. The smell of coffee in the morning, the light touch on Brooke's back as he passed her in the kitchen, the comfortable silence between two people who know each other so well they don't need to talk. Their love seemed born of habit, but not in a bad way. It was a habit built on daily choices, on respect and devotion. On Sundays he got up early, even when he wanted to sleep in, just to make the pancakes she loved. And she, in return, pretended to be asleep so she could surprise him with a hug from behind and a sleepy, "good morning," whispered against his neck. They laughed for no reason, talked about everything and nothing, re-watched shows just to chat through the episodes. And when Brooke looked at him, Logan saw himself reflected in something he called home. That's why it was hard to notice when things started to slip. Love, contrary to what people say, rarely leaves with a crash. It slides out through the cracks. First came the delays. Brooke, who used to wait for Logan with wine and a hand-picked movie, began saying her meetings were running long, that traffic was a nightmare, that deadlines at the agency were piling up. He believed her, because when you trust, you don't doubt right away. He'd hit rough patches at work himself and knew adult life demands sacrifice. So he ate dinner alone, telling himself it was temporary. But after a while, something changed in her tone. Her answers became automatic, her messages shorter, her kisses rare and almost without contact. Brooke began to avoid touch, to change the subject when he tried to talk, and her eyes, those eyes that once lit up when she heard him ramble about some random part of the day, were now dull. Distant. As if they belonged somewhere else. In another life. Logan tried to rationalize. Maybe she was exhausted. Maybe she was overwhelmed or bored with routine and stability. So he tried to rekindle the spark. He planned quick trips, wrote notes, cooked dinners. But everything felt forced. He felt like he was swimming against an invisible tide. And the worst part wasn't the change itself but the sense that she had already given up while he was still holding on. Then, on an ordinary night, in the middle of a broken conversation full of pauses, Brooke said something that froze everything inside him. No warning, no build-up. She just let it slip, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Have you ever thought about opening our marriage?" Logan leaned forward in the kitchen chair, resting his arms on the table, trying to stay calm while he stared at Brooke. Her proposal still pounded in his head. "Explain this to me," he said, firm but not loud. "What do you mean, open the relationship? You want to bring other people into our marriage? Is that it?" Brooke looked away, ran a hand through her hair as if searching for words. "It's just an idea, Logan. We've been so stuck in a routine. I thought maybe, meeting new people, trying new things, could help us." He frowned, incredulous. "Help us? Since when does adding someone else fix anything? Why not travel? Why not talk more? Why not work on us, without an audience?" Brooke took a deep breath and folded her arms. "Because I feel like something's missing. I've tried to reconnect with you, but maybe this will bring back what we lost." Logan looked at her in silence for a few seconds, as if searching for the woman he married. "Or maybe it's just the excuse you needed to do what you're already doing without feeling guilty." She met his gaze without denying it, exhaling like someone who'd stopped trying to hide. In that moment Logan realized something deeper was behind her request. And what had been suspicion now had a name, a face, and a scent. He just didn't know yet how much it would change everything. Logan spent days digesting that proposal. The way Brooke dropped those words, without hesitation, like she was asking a simple favor. He watched everything more closely now, and what had once gone unnoticed started to weigh on him. The late nights at work, the way she clutched her phone when she got home, the smiles that had vanished at home but came back when notifications lit up her screen. Little by little he understood he was dealing with a reality that was no longer his. Brooke had moved to a new level, and he was still trying to grasp the rules of the previous game. What bothered Logan most was being cut out of the decision. Brooke had already pulled away emotionally before opening any space for conversation. And asking to open the marriage felt less like a solution and more like formal permission to keep doing what was already happening in secret. The feeling of being deceived ate at him. Even with all the signs pointing to the obvious, he resisted accepting without proof. He didn't want to be the kind of man who suspects on impulse. He wanted certainty, facts, something that couldn't be twisted by words. So he made a decision. No drama, no threats. He just set everything up quietly. He bought a small, discreet GPS tracker with an app. He waited for the right moment and installed it in Brooke's car. She had gone to visit a friend. The operation took only a few minutes. When he finished, Logan sat on the couch, looked at his phone, and took a deep breath. From that moment on, he would have access to her movements. He wanted to see how far this went. And, above all, with whom. Days later Brooke texted saying she had a last-minute meeting. She said the client was demanding and that Logan should probably have dinner on his own. He just replied, "Okay." Outwardly he was calm. Inside, his pulse was pounding. He opened the app and watched the red dot, still, marking the building where she worked. Minutes passed, then half an hour. When the dot moved, Logan narrowed his eyes. She was leaving. But instead of heading home, the car went to the other side of town. The destination flashed on the screen, a restaurant known for romantic dinners. Logan grabbed his keys and drove there, careful at every intersection, trying to keep a cool head. When he arrived, he parked across the street. From the car he had almost a perfect view of the dining room through the wide windows. And there she was. Brooke. Sitting, smiling, wearing a dress Logan didn't recognize. The kind of outfit chosen with care. The kind of effort she no longer made for him. But what really turned his stomach was the man sitting across from her, Tyler Brooks. A face Logan had known since college. They were never friends. In fact, Tyler had always held a quiet grudge. He was that classmate who masked envy with jokes. They competed for a spot on the varsity team, indirectly fought for a scholarship, and in the end Logan always came out ahead. Seeing that man in front of his wife now, laughing like he'd finally won an old trophy, hurt more than any punch. Logan picked up his phone and started recording. The lens captured a clear image of the two trading looks, laughs, and, in a careless moment, hands. The recording kept rolling until the kiss. A long kiss. No hesitation. Brooke leaned forward, touched Tyler's face, and surrendered as if she'd been there 1,000 times. Logan saved the video with steady hands. He didn't speak. He didn't get out of the car. He knew this was only the beginning. On the phone screen the tracker's red dot was still blinking. After dinner the route was direct. Brooke's car stopped in front of a motel in the area. Logan filmed the entrance, the moment they got out, smiling, hand in hand. That night he drove home in silence. What he felt was no longer sadness. It was clarity. The line between love and betrayal had been crossed, and now he knew exactly who he was dealing with. Logan drove home with the images still fresh in his mind. The car parked outside the restaurant, Brooke's easy laughter, the touch on Tyler's face, the shameless kiss, and finally the two of them walking into a motel like it was just another casual date. He drove without music, without looking around. He just breathed, deep and steady, like someone holding an explosion inside his chest. When he arrived, he tossed the keys on the counter and sat in the living room. The lights were off. No sounds. It was as if the house itself sensed that something had died there. 2 hours later Brooke walked in. Barefoot, purse on her shoulder, phone still in her hand. She didn't see Logan right away, she was too busy typing on the screen. When she looked up and saw him on the couch, she paused for a second, feigning surprise. "You're still up?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Logan didn't answer. He just watched. Brooke kept moving, slipped off her shoes, walked past him without touching, and went straight to the bathroom, as if everything was normal. As if it were just another ordinary night. Logan stayed there, motionless, listening to the shower, her footsteps, the ordinary noises of someone with no fear of being found out. Brooke's calm that night was the exact reflection of how sure she was nothing would ever spin out of control. That Logan would always be there, waiting, accommodating, swallowing it all. And that was what made it even more bitter. Because until that moment he really believed they could still be fixed. But now all that remained was the raw truth. She chose. She chose to lie, to hide, to cheat, and worse, to feel comfortable doing it. The next morning, while Brooke was still asleep, Logan grabbed his phone, logged into the tracker app, and saved every route from the past weeks. Dates, times, stops. All in line with the excuses she'd given him. The pieces fit perfectly. More than a one-off affair, it was a pattern. A second, parallel relationship she maintained with total ease. And there, staring at that data, Logan realized he had to do more than keep it to himself. He decided to look into Tyler and found out he was married. His wife, Madison Grant, was a well-known businesswoman, famous for her firm stance and discretion. Logan dug deeper, found a direct contact, and decided she deserved to know the truth as much as he did. He sat at his computer and wrote. Straight to the point, no fluff, no hate, no sarcasm. He presented the evidence, the dates, the videos. He ended by saying he just wanted her to have the chance to see what was happening behind her back. Madison's reply was brief but enough, "I understand. I'll handle this personally." The sentence carried something Logan respected right away. It sounded like someone who doesn't act on impulse but on strategy. And that calmed him. He knew he wasn't dealing with a passive person. Madison wasn't a victim. She was someone who, when hit, didn't retreat, she struck back. While all of this played out, Brooke stayed in her bubble. She acted as if the idea of an open relationship was still under negotiation. She cooked dinners as if her absurd proposal might be accepted with time. Logan, however, was no longer the same. The way he carried himself, the longer silences, the cold looks. Brooke noticed but pretended not to. And his indifference, that subtle shift, was just the prelude to something bigger. Inside Logan something was growing, a new clarity. He was no longer the man who suffered quietly, who accepted shallow excuses. He was facing a situation where he could, indeed, flip the script. And in that moment, with Madison on his side, even though they hadn't met in person yet, he knew the first move had been made. And the next would be even sharper. Logan knew that to break the cycle he would have to act coldly. It was the first time in a long while he felt in control of his own story, and he wanted Brooke to know it, to see with her own eyes what she had caused. That afternoon he got home earlier than usual. He showered, changed clothes, and sat in the living room, waiting. The sound of the lock turning told him the moment had arrived. Brooke walked in smiling, as if nothing were out of place. She carried shopping bags and scrolled through her phone while chatting about her day. Logan watched in silence, letting her finish. When she dropped everything on the couch and turned to him, the first thing she noticed was his stare. It wasn't tired or angry. It was steady. Certain. As if she were about to hear something decided long ago. "We need to talk," he said slowly. Brooke paused for a second, wary. She tried to brush it off, chuckled softly, but Logan's tone didn't budge. "Sit down." She hesitated, folded her arms, but sat. Then he picked up his phone, unlocked the screen, and opened the video. He pressed play. The sound filled the room. Brooke looked at the screen and froze. The image showed her with Tyler, smiling, holding his hand across the table, then the kiss, then the two of them walking into the motel. The silence that followed was louder than any argument. She brought her hands to her mouth, eyes wide, trying to stammer something. "What is this?" she asked, as if hoping for another version of the facts. Logan stayed calm. "You know exactly what it is." She tried to deny it, tried to justify it. She said it had been a mistake, that she was confused, that it all happened too fast. But Logan wasn't there for excuses. "While you were asking to open the relationship, you were already living another one," he said with a clarity that dismantled every attempt at manipulation. "You just wanted to get rid of the guilt." Brooke was crying now, begging for forgiveness, saying she wanted to try again, that this didn't have to be the end. Logan stood up and grabbed an envelope from the table. He handed it to her. She opened it with shaking fingers and looked at the contents, divorce papers. All filled out, missing only her signature. "You crossed the line. And now it's too late." Brooke kept insisting, saying he was being too harsh, that their love couldn't end like this. That's when Logan revealed the card up his sleeve. He took another envelope and tossed it on the table. "Want to know who else watched that video?" She stayed silent. Logan crossed his arms. "Madison Grant. Your lover's wife." The impact was immediate. Brooke's eyes widened, she turned pale. "You told her?" He nodded slightly. "She thanked me. And she promised she'd handle the rest." Fear took over Brooke's face. For the first time she realized the consequences went far beyond that couch. Logan, this could ruin his life. He walked to the door, grabbed his keys, pulled on his jacket, and before leaving said, "That was exactly the point." Brooke remained there, sitting with the papers in her hands, surrounded by everything she had caused. And Logan walked out without looking back. In that moment he carried no resentment. He carried the certainty that he had responded with the same intensity he had suffered. In the days that followed, Brooke's life turned into a string of failed attempts to get back what she herself had thrown away. She sent short messages, long messages, some full of regret, others trying to convince Logan that everything could be different. She called, left voicemails, showed up in front of the old house as if her presence could erase what had been said, done, and discovered. But Logan didn't answer any of it. He had closed the chapter. Not out of pride, but out of self-respect. He knew that picking up that phone or replying to a single line would be opening a door that had only brought pain. Meanwhile, across town, Tyler learned the price of messing with someone he should never have underestimated. Madison exposed everything: videos, photos, dates, betrayal in digital files for their entire social circle to see. Without raising her voice, she destroyed everything Tyler had built on appearances. First went the marriage. Then the contracts, the public image, the partners who pulled away. He lost access to the money, the events, the invites, even the last name he'd leveraged. Madison added a clause in the divorce that barred him from using her name professionally. And in the irony of fate, the same woman he ignored during the day was now the only person with power over him. Logan watched it all from a distance. No celebration, no mockery. Just the conviction that everything lines up when the truth comes out. He didn't need to shout to be heard or take revenge with his own hands. He was firm, smart, calculated. He used the pain as fuel. He did what many would consider unlikely: he turned the game around with dignity. The most valuable lesson didn't come from the end of the marriage but from what he discovered about himself in the process: that he could stand up, look the person who hurt him in the eye, and say, "It's over," with the posture of someone who doesn't ask permission to start over. Months later, while working at a new company in another city, he got an unexpected message. It wasn't from Brooke. It was from Madison. She was in town for a conference and wanted to invite him for coffee. Logan thought for a moment and replied simply, "Sure." They met in the hotel lobby. They talked about everything and about nothing. She was different. So was he. They both carried scars that made them more selective, more alert, but also stronger. The meeting ended with a knowing smile. No promises, no rush. Just the mutual recognition of two people who know the weight of betrayal and the lightness of having overcome it. That night Logan returned to his rented apartment and, for the first time in a long while, felt peace. Not because of revenge, but because of the clear conscience that he had defended himself with truth, that he hadn't given in to blind anger, that he had achieved justice without losing his essence. Before going to sleep he looked out the window and saw a black car parked across the street. A man sat behind the wheel, motionless. Logan couldn't make out his face, but something in the posture looked familiar. Instead of being alarmed, he just smiled faintly. Life sometimes brings back people and situations in unexpected ways, but now he was ready. Whatever was coming, he was no longer the man he used to be. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.